You're listening to Procurement 6, the weekly podcast from the team at Art of Procurement that summarizes this week in procurement in just 6 short segments.
Hi there, I'm Helen Mackenzie and today is Friday, October the 13th, 2023.
6.
This week's episode is all about people because although we have a lot of tech and tools to help us in procurement, relationships with people can often be key. And when you're thinking about a strategy, whether it's linked to the contribution procurement can make to business outcomes or just a category you're managing, it's essential to ensure that stakeholders are involved. Stakeholders can provide essential expertise and feedback, and securing their buy-in throughout all stages of a process means you'll have the support once you reach implementation stage. So my tip for you this week is to think about your stakeholders and build up those relationships through regular engagement.
5.
With DPW in full swing as I record, this week's podcast, which features Matt Mailer, the former VP for procurement for Madison Square Garden Entertainment Corporation, is right on point. Now, although Matt shares a lot of experience about his time in procurement at an entertainment venue, he's got a lot of insight to share about relationships, something that we get to develop at a face-to-face event. Let's take a listen.
Relationships are important. If you want to be successful in what you do personally or professionally, you've got to manage those relationships. And I would say that as it relates to procurement, especially in this application in the venue operation world, you have to rely on those relationships, right? Because the show goes on. There's no delaying the show, the curtain call, it happens, right? And you need strong relationships with contractors and suppliers that you know can deliver on what the demands are, right? So really evaluating as part of the strategy that you have as a procurement professional, who are those relationships do you have? How do you make sure that those relationships are strong, both internally and externally, right? You have to build that brand internally, that trust for the business to then partner with you. But then subsequently, you have to build those relationships in the industry with those service providers. You have to make sure that you understand their business and you need to understand what makes them successful, right? And we put those two together as a procurement professional. When you do that, that's really when you add the most value. And it's challenging in the sports and entertainment world, right? Because there's a lot of eyes on it. There's a lot of eyes on what happens during that event, right? You may be responsible for sourcing the court. You talked about people talking about the Knicks and the Rangers, right? You're dealing with contractors that have direct access to the fans, either during an event, before an event, or after an event. And all of this is on the largest stage in the world's greatest arena. And there's a lot of pressure, but a lot of excitement around doing that. And you really need relationships that can deliver for you in that industry.
Another reminder that relationships are such a key part of procurement success. Check out the full conversation between Matt and Kelly Barner, which was recorded live at our Category Palooza event, by using the link in the show notes.
4.
I was off-site a couple of weeks ago at the ProcureCon EU event in Barcelona, and of course my podcasting mic was on standby. Let's hear from a few delegates with their takeaways from the 3-day event.
Procurement is at the very center of organizations, and they have data. And I think it's the future. So procurement can be an owner of change and innovation around data, also with automation, also with AI. I think procurement can have a leading role in driving change in organizations.
So we were able to understand exactly if we are aligned with what's going on in the market. And the most important thing for me was to see that people are using a lot of artificial intelligence to automate the process.
My takeaway is definitely one of the biggest things that I saw here that is totally new to me was the social procurement. And that is something that I think every company should look for, if not immediately, but definitely put it on their agenda of important topics. That I found extremely insightful.
It's been really great to hear different perspectives about procurement and also really learning how to speak our suppliers' language so we can work better together and collaborate.
So, we're at the centre, we can drive change and we're collaborating. Uplifting messages there from this year's ProcureCon EU.
This is Procurement 6 from Art of Procurement. To get notified every time an episode is published, go to artofprocurement.com/subscribe. 3.
One of the interesting aspects of merging two different entities together is the synergy it creates. In procurement, we're often looking for the potential for synergies from working with a supplier. At an organisational level, M&A activity is often based on the potential for this to take place. In this week's episode of Dial P for Procurement, Kelly Barner looks at grocery retailer J.M. Smucker's acquisition of convenience store chain Hostess, and why synergy may be a source of value for both parties, not just a consulting buzzword. It's another great episode in store from us from Kelly. Check out the episode by using the link in the show notes or wherever you get your podcasts.
2.
Having visited the Palm in Dubai during my vacation, I was interested to read a piece about the importance of employee engagement in the Atlantis Resorts procurement transformation. Quoted in an article in Supply Management, Director of Procurement Zoe Brooks talked about the attributes she needed from her team. I was looking for curiosity, attitude, and a willingness to investigate how the operation works, to understand better what you need and to see how resourceful they are. We have stakeholders that may demand things tomorrow when you can't do it tomorrow, so you need strong personalities to navigate those discussions. So, as Zoe rightly says, people and relationships are at the heart of things once again. You can read the full article by using the link in the show notes.
1.
I'm staying with relationships for the final slot because relationships that we're able to build in procurement ultimately determine the amount and value we can create. So we can't afford to take them for granted, even if they're already strong. While internal relationships are likely based on procurement's ability to demonstrate that the business objectives and priorities align with their own, supplier relationships should be reinforced by mutual benefit and collaboration. Now, both types of relationships require effective communication, active respect, and aligned interest. Join us for our next AOP Live session on October 17th, where Concentric's Kathleen Jordan and Brian Siebel will be sharing their expertise for a session on fostering healthy relationships outside the sourcing cycle. Register now by heading over to artofprocurement.com/calendar.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. If you've enjoyed this pod, help us grow and tell your peers to search for Procurement 6 wherever they get their podcasts.